Pick your hero. Or villain. I'm not judging.
Hello and welcome to...
Alrighty, the time has arrived. Gotta say, I was incredibly pumped leading up to this because Path of Exile 2 Season 3 is officially here. I've been grinding away the past few days and wanted to share that experience along with my thoughts, what I like and what could use improvements, you know, the usual. To set the stage though, yes, overall, I really like this game. It's still in early access, and at this point I've already clocked a solid 400 hours. I don't play 400 hours of anything that I don't genuinely enjoy. Though there are some things that I would like to see changed and improved to make the game better, I already think it's great as is. Like, I have tons of fun every revisit, every new season, from the original launch Season 2 and now into Season 3. I still love playing the game and continue to be excited for what is still yet to come, as they evidently are only about halfway there to the total amount of content that they've got planned for 1.0. I don't know how that's possible, but okay, I'll take them for their word. I mean, they've already given me 400 hours of fun, so no reason to doubt them that they'll have more fun for me in the future. Double, apparently. All right, so let's start off with talking about how the past few days have gone. Day one, I spent most of that first day, because this update didn't come up until like the evening my time. I spent like a good chunk of the day, as is typically the case with these kinds of games, struggling to decide what I wanted to play.
It's been a few hours now. I've been staring. Where am I looking? I've been staring at the screen, trying to come up with what build I want to play. I don't know. Lightning Arrow Deadeye, which is what everyone's saying is and I like the bow thing, so that could be a lot of fun. But I also really like playing the witch. What else seems cool? I heard like crossbows might be good now, and like crossbow grenade build. This is a problem with these games. I can't make up my mind. Like, what do I want to spend the next 100 hours playing?
So after much deliberation, I ultimately settled on playing the Deadeye. I heard a lot of people say they thought it was going to be a good ascendancy, and I like the Hunter playstyle. You know, you got a bow and arrow, you got this pet companion. I also kind of wanted a break from my typical League starter the past few times that we've played, and that's just been the minion-focused witch. That's like what I always start with, and then I inevitably swap to something. So this time I wanted to mix it up and start with something different. Turns out what I started with was pretty darn good, like to the point of like 50% of the player base is playing the same ascendancy that I'm playing. But anyways, yeah, the update launched towards the evening my time. It was like around dinner time when this thing came out. So really, I only played for a few hours. In that time, I got to near to the end of Act 1, so it was a pretty short session. Wasn't my greatest, didn't earn me the most gamer cred, I'll put it that way. Like, it's just a couple hours, but I did have a plan, right? I had a plan.
It's been like 2.5 hours to play time. I got 0 sleep yesterday, so I'm just gonna go for that. But I still wanted to put in a couple of hours. I think though, instead of like, I'm already super exhausted from staying up late, kind of numbing my way through this, I'm gonna go to bed, wake up early, bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, and then hit this thing hard. I'll probably wake up at like 3 days.
It was a short session, but it went well. On the technical side of things, you know, launch day, new update, lots of people excited. You worry there are going to be a lot of problems. There actually weren't a lot of like server-specific issues. Like, I wasn't dealing with a lot of lag or rubber banding while I was playing the game. Although there was the problem of regular disconnects.
Everything's been pretty much smooth, really. The one exception would be I've been getting disconnects fairly frequently porting in certain zones. It's not just sound either. It's annoying, but it's only been a minor inconvenience. I would say like of the 2.5 to 3 hours I've played, I've probably lost like 10 minutes due to trying to load into a zone, disconnecting right away, and then having to do so quick. It's not killed a lot of times, and usually if I do that one or two times, the moon haunts you. Honestly, though, if that's like the worst thing on the launch channel, that's really not bad. Like, I'm not dealing with a lot of server latency. I'm not getting booted. Besides when trying to load new zones, I'm not getting randomly booted. The biggest thing though is that just like there hasn't been any like server lag issues. Like, that's great. So all in all, for the launch day of this latest update, really not too shabby. I actually wonder what the player count looks like. Yeah, so there's 300,000 in-game right now, 306,000, and the peak of last update was 246. So already this update is getting more people in. So yeah, I'm pretty happy with how the performance and stuff is going.
Now come day 2, I had already decided ahead of time that this was gonna be my day. This was the big grind day, and as such I woke up at 3 a.m. like a crazy person.
30 seconds before you attack. Get ready.
So I was up at 3, took care of the pets, then got to grinding, and I stayed in my stationary position here until 7 p.m. Don't do the math. It was a long time. It was a long gaming session. In all of that time, I pushed through all of the base campaign, the one that we've been playing up until this update, right up until the very end of Act 4. And I gotta say, Act 4, it just like blew me away. This thing was fantastic, top to bottom. Loved every second. And it's a good thing too, because it was a lot of seconds. I think in total, this one act alone took me like 6 hours to clear. It was quite a doozy, but I really, really, really enjoyed it. Like, hats off to them. This is easily my favorite act of the game, and it's not just recency bias. Like, I genuinely enjoy so much about it. Also, the Lightning Bow Deadeye, the class I was playing, it started, you know, it wasn't bad, but it started kind of slow. Around Act 3, though, it really began popping off, and it's really just been getting stronger ever since. This build is insanely good. If you've not caught the memo yet, and you want someone to breeze through your initial playthrough of Season 3, it looks like once it gets hit with the Nerf bat, that the Deadeye is the one to go with. Also, on day 2, on the technical side of things, I will say I was no longer getting any of those disconnects where, you know, I would load into like the towns and then I would get disconnected and have to re-come in. That stopped happening. However, I started to notice more and more hard freezes. I'm not crashing, my client wasn't crashing, but the game was hard freezing. Typically, like when there was a ton of stuff happening all at once on screen, like a bunch of particle effects from my abilities and explosions going off all at once, and a ton of enemies on screen. Every so often, the game would lock up for a solid 5 to 10 seconds, so the screen would just be frozen, right? And then it would fade to black, and the gears would start turning as it was like reloading the map. Now, I'm not sure if that's server connection related or if it's technical related, where my game is freezing on my local hardware, but that the game, once the hardware calms down, the game starts spinning back up again. I don't really know what's causing that, but again, those hard freezes were happening. At least the disconnect stopped, but the hard freezes were happening. Now into day 3, following my crazy grind day. Day 3 was also a pretty big, chunky day. I got like at least 10 to 12 hours there. In that process, I was at the end of Act 4, and then I played through the interludes. That was pretty short. That was right in the morning. It was like 3-ish hours total. These are 3 interludes, and they're like mini acts, but with a handful of zones. This is just supposed to be like a segue until we eventually get the remainder. I believe there's going to be 2 more acts. We have Acts 1 through 4, and we're going to be having 5 and 6 coming in the future, and these interludes are just a biased time between Act 4 and the end game. So Interlude 1 is like a similar setting to Act 1. Interlude 2 is a similar setting to Act 2, and Interlude 3, not similar to Act 3. It's actually set in a new region in the snowy area, which was a nice new addition. There were some snow maps in the last update in mapping, but now we have a snowy region in this temporary campaign. But even though Interlude 1 and 2 shared similar themed areas to Acts 1 and 2, they were set in different locations. Like, there was new, interesting locations we were visiting that at least I don't remember having visited before. Maybe these were tile sets that were in mapping that I just didn't catch, but they were new to me, so I really enjoyed that. So yeah, going through the interludes only took me like 3 hours, kind of banged them out. Lots of nice new upgrades, permanent boost, and passive skill points to pick up in the process, and just nice new areas to explore. Again, I enjoyed it, even if it's just temporary. And then I got straight into mapping, going through the process of that end game where you're moving through that atlas and going to different nodes and juicing them up and going to towers and doing all that stuff. This is where you start to push the difficulty, start to get in those higher tiers of gear. The build is going very well. Got the foundation laid quite solidly. My resistances are capped at 75 each. Still need some more chaos, but everything else is good. And then I'm working on just trying to push up my damage and survivability across the board, starting with an evasion focus build. Eventually, I believe the plan is to go into evasion and energy shield, like a combo hybrid. I still also need to get the last of my ascendancy points. I wasn't really focused on that on day 3, mainly because I was just enjoying mapping, so I just wanted to keep pushing it and keep leveling on my character. I think my character needs to get to like level 78, and that's when I can get the next tier of bow, which is going to be should be another big DPS upgrade for me. So that's what I'm working towards at the moment. Now, day 4 is today, as of this recording. how was my gaming today? I took a break. I'm sorry to admit. I know you can take my gamer card if you want. I understand. But today I took a break. I stepped away from the grind, got outside to see the sun again because it had been a while.
Where there is evil in this universe, I will be there.
So I enjoyed my break, but I will be back to it tomorrow. That is the plan. The day that you watch this video, I'm going to be hitting the mapping again. I want to push through into the higher tiers, keep getting up to those 15 plus maps, get the rest of my ascendancy points, start doing some of that pinnacle content, you know, the whole shebang. But that's basically the recap of my experience, how it's been. It's been going good. Here are my thoughts. These are just initial thoughts. This isn't a final review, but I want to talk about some of what come to mind for the pros and cons. So for the first pro, like I said, I think Act 4 is just amazing. Like, I love it. It is easily my favorite act so far in the game. Love the setting and the environment. I love the seaside town we're visiting and this whole island archipelago with all of their different themed areas. I love the new faction that's been introduced. Lots of great personality and theming in here as well. Boss fights have been really interesting. Like, there's a shark boss, there's a warden boss, there's a siren boss. There's all sorts of really cool bosses that fit the area, and it's all really well laid out. Also, along with those new bosses, there are tons of new enemies. In fact, I remember from the stream that they did, they said there's like 100 new enemies. They got like jellyfish, all sorts of different aquatic life. You got those sirens again. You got starfish. You got a lot of ocean-themed stuff and tangential things to that. I also like the freedom of choice because you got these multiple islands and you can go to them in whatever order you want. You've got like this grand goal where you have to track down all these pieces to a weapon, and then I think you also have to track down map pieces. You have to track down some things, and you go to the islands in whatever order you want. And also each of those islands have like hidden secrets. Now eventually it'll become common knowledge, but they're hidden things that give you permanent buffs to your character or buffs that you can swap between. There's this one area where they've got like all these different shrines, and you can pick from a variety of different enhancements like increased move speed and there's a whole bunch of them. Increased experience, I don't remember all of them, but there's like 8 or 10 different things you can pick from and you can toggle them at any time. Sort of like in Act 2, how you get those 2 different class options. Well, this is like that, but for different buffs. I just found the 3% increase. Also, besides the seaside theming, I love there's this whole shamanistic spiritual slide to it. A lot of shrines and temples that just look unreal. In fact, the new Ascension area, you go through this like Temple of the Dead or something, and they've got all these little totems with these glowy green eyes. It just looks amazing. Like, this game has always looked good, but they keep introducing new areas where, with how good the game looks and the lighting and the attention to detail and the fidelity, new areas I keep being like, damn, for a top-down game, this looks so darn good. And there was a lot of Act 4, but specifically that Ascension area, the Ascendancy Trial area. Although the trial's not in, you can do everything up into the trial at this point, but that was really, really cool. Also, there were some, as mentioned, there were some cool new areas in the interludes, even though 2 of the 3 interludes are revisiting like the templates of zones that we already have in Acts 1 and 2. There were some interesting new spaces within them. A big standout for me was the flooded prison region. So yeah, you know, you got a prison, you're going through prison, whatever, there's cells and zombies come out of the cells when you lift the lever. But also there's a constant tempo of these waves rushing in because the prison is on the water. As the swell comes in, it floods, like it comes in from like the northwest corner of the map, and it floods in progressively into all of the low-lying areas inside of the prison. It's so cool. It's just so darn cool. Really well. I really liked it. Lots of stuff I really liked about Act 4, as well as the interludes. And also on that point, I'll say that not playing Cruel, I'm so glad that's done. Like, I do enjoy the acts. In fact, I think the campaign at this point is one of the strongest parts of this game. Like, honestly, it's what I enjoy the most. It's many hours into mapping where I start to really fall off the game. But playing through the campaign every season, it has been fun for me. But I don't want to play through this same 3 acts back to back like that. So it's nice that they got, especially if you make multiple characters, you're playing through it 2 times per character. So if you make 2 or 3 characters in one season, you're playing through those acts 6 times. It's just a lot. So I'm glad we're done with Cruel. Even though the interludes are temporary, I enjoy them for what they are, and as I've gushed on about Act 4, it's amazing. The new League mechanic is pretty cool as well. It's rather simple, but I do enjoy its presence. So basically the way it works is just as you're going through the maps. This happens in the campaign as well. It's not just endgame, but as you're going through, you're going to see these little crevices, these fissures that are in the ground, and enemies are spawning up from them. And as you kill them, the fissures kind of close. They like sew themselves shut, and then they get closer to this pit area, and eventually you progress it to a point where they all get pissed off, and a bunch of enemies emerge all at once, just like pop right up out of the pit. And a lot of times those will come with some sort of boss or elite enemy. When you then close that can either spawn a chest, or the other cool thing it can do is it can open up into an underground dungeon. And it's cool because you don't just like, I like the little touches. They do so many nice little touches in this game, but you click on the entrance to this dungeon and you don't just load in. Your character actually like peers over the edge and then leaps into it. It's so damn cool. Like they even do that. There's this area where you go to upgrade gear. Basically, you get like a random affix and you bring it to it, and then it'll give you a choice of 3. So you can pick from one of 3 options. When you do that though, you toss the item into the pit, and this little like snake creature looks over the edge and then jumps in itself and then brings the item back to you. Again, a lot of these little animations and attention to detail this game is really done so well. They keep knocking it out of the park. We get that new sprint mechanic. This one's a little divisive, but honestly, to me, I think it's been amazing. It definitely takes some getting used to. They've got a lot of these heavy animation reliance. Like it's got a slow turn radius, and then also there's a slowdown animation when you stop sprinting, where your character starts to like catch their feet to catch their momentum and slow themselves down. You can cancel both of these. You don't actually have to deal with the slow turn radius and the slow animation at the end of sprinting, because you can dodge to instantly turn in any direction. Like if you're sprinting in one direction and you want to go straight south, you can just dodge in that direction and keep sprinting. So you will circumnavigate that slow turning animation that would naturally happen if you just try to turn instead of dodging in a direction. So you can do that. And then also, I never deal with the slowing momentum of your character catching themselves at the end of sprinting. Every time you just cast or attack something, it cancels it, and you don't deal with that animation. So every time I want to stop sprinting, I just cast an attack, because that's the only time I ever really want to stop sprinting, when it's time to start attacking enemies. So it's a bit divisive. Some people actually really dislike the sprint mechanic. I definitely think the feel of it could be improved, but there's ways around what's wrong with it, and just in general, I like its inclusion in this update. Also, I've just enjoyed playing a new class at the start of a league, because again, it's always been Indian Witch for me, different variations between Infernalist and Lich, but it's just nice to be playing something else. It turns out that I am playing like what seems to be so far the most overtuned build in the game. That might change as we progress in the higher tier, whatever. As we get further in the map and you get better gear, someone else might pop off way better than Deadeye, who knows. But right now, Deadeye is very good, and it is very well represented for sure. Trade in-game, fantastic inclusion. I'm so glad it's here. So much better, and toggling out of game, staring at a web browser. It's still definitely like a lot to parse. There's like, because there's so many different affixes when you're searching for something. You got like a lot of pull-down menus and a lot of sections to fill in. It's like, I feel like I'm filing my taxes every time I go to look up an item in this game that I want to play into my build. I've just got like so much information to fill out. I'm like, holy crap, dude. But it's nice that it's in game. Also, the purchasing side of it, 10 billion times better. Rather than clicking through whisper this person, whisper this person, whisper this person for every item that I'm hoping to get from that website, and then having to wait for a return whisper from them in game, and then having to port to their thing. Now it's just while you're doing the marketplace, if you find an item you want, you click on a button and you're instantly ported to their base, and so long as another player hasn't snatched up the item before you, you get the item. I gotta say, I've never had someone, like, I've never been in competition with someone in the buying that I've done this far. I haven't bought a ton of things. I've probably bought like maybe 5 to 10 pieces of gear, but not once have I been like racing someone else to it. I'm sure that happens for highly underpriced items that people are trying to snipe, but for just like regular buying of things, and if you're not trying to buy the best of the best for super cheap, it's been fine. Like I've literally never had competition. I see the item I want, I click yes, I'm instantly in their hideout, and the item's right there. It's highlighted, I just pick it up, and that's mine. It's nice that there's a lot more game now, tons of different stuff, new gems, new rules, a lot of new items, new enemies to fight, new gear, new different build combinations to check out. I know I'm just playing that out right now, but eventually I'll check some out. Tons of different builds. And then also just the end game is way more accessible. A lot of this happened in the last update, but that got shown by some of the issues that they had. But you know, we got the fact that bosses now have unlimited spawns. You don't lose a map every time. All the stuff we talked about last time we talked about the other two. And now with this update, there's just more of all of that there. As for the need work, there's a few things that stand out to me. First and foremost is the balance, as I mentioned. Like, everything feels undertuned compared to Deadeye. Now, I do think there's a strong probability that other builds start to pop off, because usually there are the strong builds at the beginning of the season, and then there are the uber strong / broken builds that people discover as they progress further and get to better gear and higher tiers of things and more higher levels, so they've got more points in the passive that you spend for better combinations. Like, I'm sure there's going to be some crazy broken builds that we'll start to discover a week or 2 weeks after release. But right now, as it is, I think Deadeye represents like 50% of the player base according to the stats that I've seen. Evidently, when it comes to the players that have progressed far, like who are over level 90, I guess it's 70% of characters over level 90 are Deadeye, so that speaks volumes. I literally, like, I heard it was good, but I had no idea it was going to be this busted. Like, honestly, I probably would have played something else because I'm expecting a nerf at this point, but whatever. So yeah, balance needs some work, at least as of now. Deadeye represents once more. We'll see if that changes in the coming weeks. Those hard freezes, yeah, I haven't been loving it. Like I said, I am not hard crashing, although I have heard there have been quite a few people dealing with hard crashing, so hopefully that gets fixed, causing that now. But I have been having those hard freezes, I would say a couple times an hour on average, and it's not fun. In fact, a couple times I've died to it. It's a good thing I'm not playing hardcore, because there have been a few times where game hard freezes, right? And then the gear starts spinning, and then it's a black screen and I can't see anything yet, but somehow my character's still getting attacked and dies. If I lost a hardcore character that, I would be absolutely livid. The sprint, like I said, there are workarounds, but there's parts of it that people don't really like. So I definitely want to address that. Like, some people want to see it drastically change to be more responsive across the board. I'm okay with having the natural slowdown animation, and then you just have the animation cancel it if you don't want to deal with it. And I'm kind of okay with that for release as well, but we'll see what user decides to do. Some of the new maps, particularly the prison, is very, very big. This is a negative for some people, but mainly it's little checkpoints in between that people aren't too happy with. Also, there have been some buggy maps. Several times I found myself stuck under terrain. Don't know why. I think it was just on some of the new ones. Also, some buggy enemies, like unkillable enemies, some of the new ones, especially in the new Abyss stuff. There do seem to be some what seem to be overtuned enemies compared to the difficulty. I kind of like that the seasonal content is hard, but I mean, yeah, things just like instant delete me a couple times there. Also, I kind of wish that the trade was unlocked sooner, not because I want to start buying gear sooner necessarily, but I want to start selling stuff sooner. Like, I keep...
Okay, we gotta talk about these psycho TikTokers. Now, I used to talk about this years ago, where people would be faking mental illness and faking these disorders, basically just inventing random shit because they're bored and they feel like it, and they really desperately want attention from people. So we're gonna go through a couple people that are going viral recently. Here's my little preview for the video. We got this psycho, this psycho, this psycho. We'll also be talking about the...
Hey guys, welcome back. It's Lucky here, and it's time for the mid-year update where we look at the most played MMOs right now. A lot has changed since the last time I made this video. We've seen some MMOs move way up on this list and some move way down. This video is strictly by the numbers, which means I'm not ranking them by quality, simply by active player base size. Which ones are dying and which ones are thriving, let's find out. First up at number 17, Lost Ark. Continuing its steep descent, Lost Ark has dropped one more place from 16 to 17. Lost Ark is a free-to-play, top-down MMORPG that launched in the East in 2019 and then finally here in the West in 2022. Players have attributed the steep player decline to the game's repetitive daily gameplay loop and the pay-to-win monetization. Lost Ark seems to really be struggling with new player onboarding, getting players through the early levels and into the endgame content, with the current player base is not easy when it comes to a game with this much grind. One of Lost Ark's biggest strengths is its combat. On top of that, the game has a wide variety of classes with more on the way, each with their own look and feel to make sure anyone can find the right class for them. If we look at Lost Ark's trends, we can see the interest in Lost Ark exploded in February of 2022 when it launched in the West, but then quickly lost those players as time went on, leaving it all the way down here in last place at number 17 on the list. Next up, we have Albion Online, which has moved up one position to number 16 on the list. Albion Online is a fantasy sandbox MMORPG that was released in 2017, and it's available on PC, Mac, iOS, and Android, and it's free to play and full of pay for power. This one's not for the faint of heart because Albion Online is a full loot PvP MMO. Fortunately, if you lose a full loot PvP fight, it's not too terribly difficult to recover from. Most players are running around with gear that is only worth about 1% of their net worth. Once you've been looted by an enemy, all you have to do is go back and buy replacement gear, and the game has made this process as easy as clicking one button in the shop. The game features a massive progression tree where the more you use something, the more you level it up and unlock things down that branch of the tree. Albion Online does not require a mandatory sub, but it does offer an optional sub that will greatly reduce the grind to your max level. The game has attracted a niche audience, helping it make it onto this list. If you're looking for something different and high stakes that feels like a MOBA and an MMO merged into one beautiful creature, Albion Online might be a good choice for you. Falling 3 places all the way down to number 15 on the list is Throne and Liberty. This MMO has definitely fallen short of expectations. It's a gorgeous PvP-centric MMO with very little PvE. Combine that with the fact that it's got massive pay for power, and you end up with an MMO for a very niche audience. Players complain about a lack of content and a repetitive daily gameplay loop, burning them out on the young game. While fans of the game love the group PvP battles, I really hoped this would be the next big MMO, but sitting down here at number 15 on the list, less than a year after its release, it's not looking likely. Next up is Lord of the Rings Online.
But first, if you play one of the most popular games in the world to level 20, the developers will spend their money to plant a tree for you. So if you want to be responsible for adding what will one day be a massive tree to the planet, use my link in the description below to jump in and get to 20 today. I love playing this game while I'm watching Netflix and YouTube. It's just plain fun to be progressing and leveling up your team while you relax. Whether you're fighting your way up Doom Tower or advancing through the campaign, it always feels fantastic to have OP champions to make the start feel fast and easy. And you're in luck. Right now, if you use my link, you'll get Epic Champion Tagore right off the bat. And once you get to 15, you'll unlock Epic Fame. Best of all though, you'll get the insanely powerful and legendary champion Green Warden Rourke 72 hours after downloading the game using my link. Just use code TREEHUGGER. Use Green Warden to absolutely dominate your opponents. He's a tank who becomes almost unkillable with a regeneration set on. He even automatically shields allies who take more than 10% damage. So what are you waiting for? Use my link in the description or the QR code on screen to download Raid and get to level 20 using my code. And know that you are responsible for making Raid spend its money to plant what will one day be your massive, beautiful tree. Once you get into the game, be sure to search for Clan Vegeta Best Dark 8888, and I'll see you on the battlefield. A massive shout out to Raid for sponsoring the channel so that I can make videos like this for you. Now let's get back to the video. Next up is Lord of the Rings Online, holding on to the number 14 spot. It was released in 2007, and then in 2010 the game went from being subscription based to being free to play. Lord of the Rings Online is a classic theme park MMO. It's got a respectable Lord of the Rings inspired story with some really solid voice acting. Like many of the free to play MMOs, it's not massively popular, but it's alive enough to enjoy it. It's worth noting that in order to have access to all of the races and classes, you'll have to spend money, so you aren't quite getting the full experience for free. You can also choose to sub for 15 bucks a month in order to get things like extra inventory space and extra quests. If you want a fun little trip down nostalgia lane and a classic MMO experience that you can enjoy for free, maybe try Lord of the Rings Online. Next up at number 13 is EverQuest. Sitting here as the oldest MMO we'll talk about today, launched all the way back in 1999. EverQuest still has a small but respectable population, still popular enough to hold on to the 13th spot on the list, but before WoW, when no one knew what an MMO was, there was EverQuest. This game has the classic MMO formula because it invented a lot of it.
EverQuest can be punishing. Dying can mean you have to go back and pick up your corpse to get your gear back. Pulling an extra mob can spell your death. This old MMO is still getting expansions today, which is definitely contributing to the fact that it's still this high up on the list today. It's worth noting that it might be hard to do group content if you're not someone who's willing to multi-box, as this is one of the more popular ways to play the game these days. Next up, falling farther than any other MMO on the list this time around is New World, dropping from number 6 to number 12 after seeing a brief population spike during its relaunch, where it changed its name from New World to New World Eternum. This is one of the few MMOs that you can play on PC, Xbox, and PlayStation. As far as MMOs go, New World is one of the most fairly monetized ones out there, featuring very little in the way of things that could be considered pay to win. The game is buy to play with an optional battle pass. New World features a massive seamless open world for you to explore, and that's where it definitely shines. When you're out exploring, questing, killing, and gathering, and all the things you stumble into along the way. Every bush, tree, or rock can be gathered to level up your crafting and gathering. New World features the trinity of tank, healer, and DPS, and has some incredibly challenging dungeons and raids. New World brought some unique ideas to the MMO genre, but has failed to release a steady stream of content for the players that do enjoy the game, leading to many of them drifting away from this new MMO faster than they would have liked. It's also worth noting that this same studio is currently well underway on a Lord of the Rings MMO, which has undoubtedly taken some of the resources and experienced developers from the New World team, possibly contributing to the lack of content. Next up, we have EVE Online, moving up 4 spots to number 11, though this is less the result of its population increasing and more the result of other MMOs' populations decreasing. EVE Online released way back in 2003, and it's an MMO where your goal is to build and upgrade a powerful spaceship so that you can join up with others to vie for control of the most profitable sectors of space. It's free to play with the option to pay money to do things like access more spaceships sooner. It also has an optional sub, and this sub is the most expensive subscription on the entire list today, sitting at $20 per month. As with most optional subs, fans of the game will often tell you that if you intend to fully enjoy the game, the sub's not so optional. PvP in EVE Online is high stakes, as when your ship is destroyed, it does not respawn. No, you must build it again. So be prepared to spend days, weeks, or even months refarming materials to get your ship back. EVE was never the biggest MMO, but it and its fans and its developers have kept it on this list for over 2 decades, likely because there's nothing else like it. Now for the top 10. Holding on to the 10th spot, BDO is known for its beautiful graphics and flashy combat. It's an open world game with very little in the way of instanced content. You don't play BDO for the dungeons and the raids. You play BDO to go out and kill things in the open world, often for hours on end, just to gain a few % of a level. It's very much a grindy game. It's important to note that this is an always on PvP game. Once you hit 50, the PvP is on. For the most part, anyone can kill you at almost any time. This doesn't mean they will, but this is definitely one of the unique qualities of this game that makes it popular among PvPers. BDO has some pretty negative associations here in the West thanks to its previous publisher making the game overly pay to win with some pretty heavy-handed monetization on top of that. But since the developers parted way with that publisher, the game has undone a lot of the less popular aspects of its monetization, making it possibly worth looking into again if you haven't recently. BDO features a ton of unique classes and continues to actively update the game, but how is the game's population trending of late? The population seems to be holding on, and BDO seems to have largely slowed the bleeding of its player base. Recent expansions have added a lot of questing and PvE content if you're someone who prefers that type of content. Next up, climbing 2 spots to number 9 is Star Wars: The Old Republic. BioWare has handed this game off to a new developer to keep it up and running as they move on to new projects. Typically, this doesn't bode well for the future of an MMO, but time will tell. So far, the handoff has been a bit rough, with the next story expansion having been significantly delayed. This is another MMO that is now free to play with an optional sub. That optional sub will unlock a lot of things, but most importantly, it will give you access to all of the zones in the game forever, even if you only sub for 1 month and then cancel. And veterans of the game will tell you that's exactly what you should do if you want to experience SWTOR. Star Wars: The Old Republic is most known for its amazing class stories that immerse you in the world of Star Wars, which are fully voice acted and are incredibly well fleshed out and written. It's not a bad game to pick up and play with a friend, as it does feature level scaling, which has resulted in the questing experience being very, very easy. So you'll definitely be jumping in for the story rather than the challenge. The population has been sliding over the years, albeit slowly, but now that the developers handed this game off to a new dev, we'll be keeping a close eye on it. Moving up 1 spot to number 8 is Guild Wars 2, which had an explosive launch back in 2012 and has since been one of the most popular MMOs on the market. As MMOs go, Guild Wars does an excellent job of encouraging zone exploration and completion, and tried hard to break the mold of having players run from one yellow exclamation mark to the next. And it largely succeeded. Guild Wars 2 features a very generous free trial. The first 80 levels are completely free, and the game does not feature a sub, not even one of those quote-unquote optional subs. So when it says you can play it for free, it means it. After the first 80 levels, there is a lot of great content to be had in the expansions. However, these will need to be purchased, and these expansions definitely house the best content in the game. Guild Wars 2 mounts are better and more fun than mounts in any other game, and its lack of rigid trinity of tank, healer, and DPS have made it a unique entry in the genre. One of the most memorable parts of Guild Wars 2 is its world events, where upwards of 100 players group up to take down dragons the size of skyscrapers. These fights are truly a sight to behold, and it's really cool to see that many people in the community all get together to take one of these things down. How is Guild Wars 2 trending? Well, it seems to have seen a peak with its End of Dragons expansion in 2022 that it has been slowly falling from since. Holding on to number 7 on the list is Wizard 101. This was a gateway into the MMO scene for many children around 2008 when it launched. It's still going strong today, and it's still getting new updates regularly. The game lists itself as free to play, but veterans of the game will tell you it's more honest to call it free to try, as you'll need a sub in order to access all the game's best and most relevant content. It's definitely a unique entry featuring a card collecting style of content. It also includes your more usual MMO staples like housing and fishing. And despite its humble beginnings, it's still here comfortably holding down the number 7 spot 16 years after its initial release. Moving up 4 slots to number 6 is MapleStory. MapleStory launched in 2003 in the East and 2005 in the West. It was immensely successful and still manages to stay